Hello and welcome back to another episode of Sports Tales. We are continuing up with the previous episode of Austrian football, and I still have Thomas with me. And this week we are going to be discussing why clubs in Austria are going bankrupt and dissolving. Why can't other clubs copy the Red Bull model, and why would it not work if they did? We also want to discuss the Austrian national team players individually and as a team, and what would be the possible solutions to make Austrian football more competitive. This is all given by Thomas. So welcome back, and let's dive in to see what we have in store.
Sometimes, as an outsider, you just want to be biased towards a club that is just spending recklessly. But then also, when you see a brand name that is attached to the name of the football club, you already are like, yeah, it's a sold out club. That's the attitude that people have. But then from spending recklessly a decade back to now having a very sustainable model, a well-run club, they have a great training facility. It is one of the best in the world, and the training facility, the training ground, is actually been an inspiration to the Liverpool's training ground model because Jordan Henderson, he was there, he went and he checked it out, and he was so impressed by that. And the entire setup is like inspired from the training facilities of Red Bull Salzburg.
It's the best thing I've ever seen so far. I saw it like 1 or 2 years after it was built, after it was done, and it's, if I remember it correctly, I think it's 6 football fields outside and even 1 football field inside. Inside, so an indoor football ground, not just a small one, a big one.
So like
And
an
it's-
indoor stadium.
Yeah, it's not a stadium; it's just
Yeah.
a training ground.
Yeah.
But it was like, wow! And I saw all the training facilities and the studios and everything. It's such an impressive thing over there.
Yeah.
So
It's actually an attitude we got to change. I'm not here to preach and say that okay, change your attitude, guys, towards Red Bull. Of course not. If a big time multinational company is trying to invest in football in such a way that it wants to be sustainable, and no matter how much they go on every year to lose their best players, but they can still not easily but in a very smooth way replace the star players that they have sold, then they are doing something right, and it is a very well run club and a very well run setup, and the culture is in a right place, and the attitude towards football and also the development of it is in the right place, and I think that's what counts. Yeah, which eventually brings me to asking the question, do you think Red Bull are going to be sustainable? Because so many football clubs in Austria, they have, you wouldn't imagine, they've gone on to win championships and then gone into administration. Firstly, we just ask the simple question, are they sustainable?
yeah, 100%, 100%, they are sustainable because you wouldn't believe it, but they would be able to live without sponsoring from Red Bull.
Oh,
They
really?
would be able to do it. Yeah, sure. They only their transfer fees they got from other clubs. Only with that. I mean, to play in the Austrian league, you don't have to have a big budget. It's not like playing in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the biggest budget in the Austrian league, and their budget amounts to, I think, 60, 70 million euros.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 60, 70 million euros. That's one signing for PSG.
Yeah.
So just imagine what they sold within the last years. They sold players like Wang, Keita, Bam Bam Bam, and so on. And in the next years, they will sell players like Adeyemi, Szoboszlai, Keita, Patson Daka. They will sell them. And they will get, for each of them, they will get, I think, at least 20 million.
Yeah.
So if they sell all those 3 players,
Then
they have the budget for the whole year.
Yeah.
So they are able to live without Red Bull.
Mhm.
And I think that was also part of their philosophy, that Red Bull doesn't have to invest a lot of money, that this football club, Red Bull Salzburg, it's gaining money for Red Bull. They don't have to spend money on Red Bull. So it's sustainable. They changed the game. They changed the game.
Yeah. Which then begs the question about these sorry state of affairs where a lot of football clubs have gone down, lost money, been bankrupt. How did that come to be, and what was the reason for that to happen?
You mean in the past for the Austrian clubs?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are plenty of examples. There is the example of Wacker Innsbruck in the 2001-2002 years. They had a lot of different sponsors. For example, Swarovski was one of the big sponsors in the past, and then they had other big sponsors. But they just did bad management back in the days. They just paid too much for the players, and they didn't reach their goals. So they wanted to reach the Champions League with Innsbruck, with Tirol, Wacker Tirol, but they didn't make it. And if you are able to be part of the Champions League, always also back in 2001 too, if you're part of the Champions League, you get a lot of money.
It was a different format also back then, yeah. So
and they spent so much money on players, and they just didn't make it. I mean, they didn't make it on one goal. I remember they played against Lok Moscow back in the playoff round, and they lost away 3-1, and at home they won 1-0. So they had to score one more goal. Maybe if they would have scored that goal, maybe they would still be on top of Austria. I don't think so, because they did bad management. Because if they would have made it, they would have made other bad things and bad management. So for Wacker Innsbruck, it was just bad management. The same happened to GAK, to Grazer Athletic Club. They got champions of Austria in 2004 or 5th, and 2 years later they got relegated. They got bankrupt.
Oh. But is it again the same reason that they are just investing a lot of their money in buying older players?
It's a mixture of all those things, but in the end, it's bad management. They just had no clear structure within the club. They just spent money, and then maybe one or two sponsors lost interest in sponsoring this. And if you spend all of your budget, if you spend every year all of your budget, and then you give players a contract of 3-4 years, you have to pay them next year as well. And if then a sponsor says, okay, no, we're not interested anymore, and if it's one of the bigger ones, you're fucked. It's shit. And that happened to Wacker Innsbruck, that happened to GAK. Again, they play now in the second league, and they got a lot better management now. And that also happened to Sturm Graz, but they closely made it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get relegated, but their owner, Hannes Kartnick, he got to prison.
Yeah. Oh dear God.
And then there is also the most prominent one in the last year was SV Mattersburg. I mean, they played for 15 years in the first league now of Austria. And in this summer, after the season, I think 1 or 2 weeks after the end of the season, their main sponsor and also their Obmann, Martin Kucher, they got bankrupt with their bank, and the bank was the main sponsor. They
you mean the CEO, yeah?
He was the CEO. Yeah. He was the CEO, and he was the CEO of the bank, and he was more or less the CEO of the football club.
Okay.
And his company got bankrupt because he faked numbers.
Oh dear God.
And people said that he covered, with this bank, he covered 50% of the budget of SV Mattersburg. And imagine if 50% of your budget is just gone, it's over more or less. And that happened to SV Mattersburg. They've been 15 years in the first league in Austria, and now they're not existing anymore. They
don't exist at all.
They don't. Yeah, they quit the club, and now they started a new club, but just for youth development and so on. And they start in the lowest league in 1 or 2 years, but right now they are not really existing. For all of those football clubs that got bankrupt, the main reason is bad management. They just did a bad job in terms of management.
Do you think for these things to not happen in the future, the best way is for everyone to copy the successful Redbull model? Of course, they don't have the money, but
no, it can't be sufficient to copy just the model. I mean, think Lask, for example, Lask Linz.
Yeah.
They had the same problems. They didn't went bankrupt, but they had one guy in front, like the CEO, and he just did bad management, and they got relegated to the third league. Then they got up now again to the first league, and last year even to the Europa League, played against Manchester United. We had that already. But they somehow copied the system of Salzburg, but they didn't copy everything. I mean, it's never good to copy everything, because one thing that works there doesn't work exactly the same way here.
Yeah.
But they try to adapt the model to their best domestic way, and they have quite a good fan base. They have quite a good potential. They are a main club in Linz, and Linz is quite a big city for Austrian terms, and they will be successful. And the same thing should Rapid Wien do. They should do the same thing. The same thing other clubs should do the same thing. They're not able to copy the whole system from Red Bull because that's impossible. But they should find the ideas, and in the end they have to do good management. Like every company, if the numbers are not good, the football club will not work successfully and sustainable. Maybe in the short term, but in the long term, it's shit.
But in terms of players coming through, do the national team players play in the national league, like the Bundesliga in Austria, or they're playing abroad in the other big leagues?
The really, really good players like David Alaba or Arnautovic or now Konrad Laimer and Xaver Schlager, they're not playing in Austria. They're playing in other teams, like as I said, Bayern Munich or RB Leipzig or Gladbach and so on. So mostly in Germany, because the step from Austria to Germany, it's not so difficult, not another language, or a little bit other language. The best players, they are playing in leagues, in the big leagues in Europe. But due to the fact that Salzburg has a really good system, we profit from that, and there are also some players playing in the Austrian league. So I would say 40-60. 40% is mainly from Austria and 60% are from abroad teams.
Why do you think, you can go against this point? I feel that Austria as a national team really underachieve big time.
Yeah, they do. They do. I totally get your point.
Because for a country that is in close proximity with Germany, the technology, the infrastructure is there compared to even Poland,
Yeah, I got it.
I'm pretty sure that Austria's got pretty good infrastructure than Poland, but if you see, Poland's got the better national team. I don't know how are they producing such class footballers, but what is going wrong exactly with the coming through of players that can make the national team not punch above his weight, but like live up to expectations? Because I'm thinking, it should be better.
I think so as well. But yeah, Austria, we have really good players, in my opinion. I mean, we have David Alaba, we have
Great individuals.
Marko Arnautovic, we have, as I said, Xaver Schlager, Konrad Laimer, some play for Baumgartner at Hoffenheim. We have really, really good players, but I think there are always missing some small key points, in my opinion, just in my opinion. But I think we don't have this one leader. If you compare it to Germany, for example, when Germany won the World Cup in 2014, there was Schweinsteiger. He was the one leader. He was this one guy. Before they had Michael Ballack. And also, I mean, France 2018, they had just an amazing team. But in Austria, I think there's missing this one leader. Back in the days, we had Andreas Herzog, but apart from Andreas Herzog, we didn't have a good team. Back then, we had a really bad team. But right now we have a good team, but not this one specific leader. And national coach Franco Foda, we'll see. I don't want to say anything bad about him, but we will see. Maybe we will do a pretty good job in the next European Championships in 2021. I hope so, but I think we'll need this one particular leader in the team. Maybe I think Xaver Schlager, he's really good and he can do that job. But he is just, I think, 21, 22 years, so he's pretty young. He will need 3 more years.
I'm looking forward to the championship next year, the European Championship next year. And hopefully there are going to be good moments. But what, according to you, in your memory, has been the darkest day in Austrian football and also probably the best day in Austrian football?
We have to look back quite a long time. I mean, sure, there is the European Championships in 2008 in Austria. That was a big moment for Austria, but it wasn't earned. It was just given, I would say. It was because we got it. We got qualified automatically for that tournament, and we played a okay-ish tournament, but not a really good one. I mean, we lost in the last final group stage game against Germany when Michael Ballack, he scored a free kick against us, and therefore we got out of the competition. You can lose against Germany in a European Championship, but it was not so special, I would say. But if we take a look back in the days, there was one bad thing and one really good thing. I will start with the bad thing. That was the the loss against the Faroe Islands, a 40,000 people island, in their, it was really their first official national game.
I
And
guess
they
we
even played it in Sweden because they were not allowed to play it on the Faroe Islands. And we came like a few months before we played at the 1990 World Championships with our team, so a pretty good team with Polster. I think Herzog was part of it as well. And then we lost against the Faroe Islands 1-0. So
wow.
it was pretty hard.
I guess you guys just wanted to introduce Faroe Islands to the big league and say,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
show them give them the
the Faroe
confidence.
Islands, they profited a lot from us, and for them it's a. I saw a documentary a few weeks ago, and for them it's still a big day, this game, and they still remember it, they still celebrate it, and yeah, the coach at that time, Josef Hickersberger, he just right after the game, he said, "I'm gonna quit my job."
Yeah,
And coming to the biggest moment in the national football career of Austria, I would say it is the 1978 group stage game in Cordoba against Germany. Because if you say Cordoba to a football fan in Austria, everybody knows, okay, Cordoba 3-2 against Germany, winning against the World Cup champion from 1974, 4 years later at the group stage, or it was the middle stage back then. And then Hans Krankel, one of the most prominent footballers back in the days, he played for Barcelona. He won the Golden Boot, and he scored in the 88th minute. He scored this goal against West Germany. I remember just the TV moderator. You always hear it when you enter 3-2 Hans Krankel. You will see it, and he just said Tor, 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 Ilia Narish. That everyone remembers these words, and that's football history in Austria. Others like Germany, they have those world championships, and we have this 3-2 against Germany. That's our world championship, I would say.
this moment.
This moment, yeah.
This moment.
I mean, I wasn't born back then, but I still remember exactly. I remember the scoring. I remember.
Okay, all right. That is the best and the worst of Austrian football in his memory. But yeah, let's get back to the league, the Austrian league, and we as football fans, we don't want to see one winner for the past 8 years. Already, the three of the top five leagues have winners that have won for the past 8 years, and when you go to see it, Austria is also following the same suit. So how do you make the league competitive? What do you think would be an ideal solution so that we don't have Red Bull Salzburg winning for the next 7 to 10 years again?
Yeah, as we said already, the change of the league format is already one step into that direction.
Yeah.
Because we didn't say it, but in the playoffs, so the first 22 games, then they got divided into two groups,
Yeah.
and the points also got
You start
divided.
from zero.
No, they don't start from zero, but they get it halved, and therefore the games afterwards they count more than the ones before. So it's a bit more interesting. Everything is a bit closer, and it got better in the last 2 years, and especially the last year after the first 22 games, Salzburg wasn't at the first place. It was Las Linz on the first place, but I think in Austria we have quite a similar problem as we have in Germany. I mean, in Germany, Bayern Munich is the one and only club right now.
Yeah.
In the last 8 years. In Austria, it's the same. But from my opinion, Dortmund and also other teams in the last 2-3 years, they always had the chance to be better, to win this title. But sure, Bayern Munich did a pretty decent spring term, but Dortmund and Leipzig and Gladbach, they led even by 8 or 9 points before Bayern Munich. So they did it because they were not able to sustain their success. And the same happened in Austria with Las Linz, also the same with Rapid Wien once. They were in front, and they just didn't make it. So what can we do? I mean, league format is the one thing, but on the other hand, the other teams, they have to work year by year and do a pretty good job as Las Linz is doing it, but it's hard for them. I mean, Red Bull Salzburg has more opportunities right now. And one thing that I like is to change the format of the league again. I would love to do that. I would love to see that Austria and Switzerland build a league together. They tried it once with the so-called Alps Premier League.
Oh, wow.
I like this format.
Did it work?
No, they didn't. They
Why not?
tried to implement it. Some people did a structure and then tried to market it, but yeah, I think it's very difficult to implement, and I think UEFA is not really happy with this kind of system and everything. But I would love to see that an Alps Premier League together with Switzerland, 8 teams from Austria, 8 teams from Switzerland, the best 8 teams like Basel, Zurich, Bern, and so on, and also from Austria, the best teams in one league format together. That would be awesome. I mean,
it would also
that would change the game a little bit.
Yeah, it would also make the league more competitive.
Sure, it would.
And then we would also have different winners.
I think that would be a very, very interesting format, but right now it's not really realistic.
No, okay. Why do you think that?
Yeah, because of UEFA and everything. The UEFA.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, all the stuff from Super League and everything. So if some kind of a Super League happens in the next 5 years, then some kind of league format like this would be possible as well. I would say that, but it's very difficult because then you have to split the European tickets for the Europa League and so on. So it's a very complex thing. But I think the fans would love it, and it would be a very, very nice addition for the football in Austria and in Switzerland, and we will get more competitive compared to the other top leagues.
That's true. Yeah, cool. I hope this was a fun listen for you guys while we tried to break the league system in Austria, and you got to know how it works without much confusion. We tried to make it as easy as possible, and you also got to know a little bit about not just Rapid and Austria Wien, but the first football club in Wien, and a little bit about the Love Derby, which I was not aware about before today. And yeah, what do you think about the Red Bull model? Do you think they are going to be sustainable? Do you think they're doing it in the right way? And what are your thoughts about Austrian football teams going into administration and going out of existence despite of winning leagues just a couple of years earlier? And having said that, we come to the last bit, which was, if you are into Austrian football, do you agree or disagree with Thomas's best and worst memories? We tried to then break down the solutions of trying to make Austrian football more competitive. Of course, we do hope that UEFA listens to this podcast and takes inspiration from this, but we are not going to bet against it. So thanks for having a listen. Thanks, Thomas, for coming here.
Thank you.
And sharing your knowledge about Austrian football. It was a pleasure to have you. We will see you next week. Till then, stay awesome, love the game, and peace out.
Hey, so if you enjoyed that episode, you can give us a thumbs up on Apple or Google Podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at sports.tales. We release a small snippet every Monday to show what the upcoming episode looks like. And if you want to listen to our previous episodes, you can find the link in the description. Until then, stay awesome, stay healthy, and so long.